The deep space vessel Horizon drifted through the empty darkness between stars. Captain Han stood at the observation window and watched the distant lights of a billion suns. He had been in space for 15 years, but the view still made him feel small. The universe was so big, and humans were so new to it. Behind him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. The Horizon was on a simple mission. They were mapping unexplored regions of the galaxy, far from any known civilization. It was boring work, but important. Humanity needed to know what was out there. Sat at the science station. She was young, only 28, but she was the best engineer Han had ever worked with. She could fix anything and understand any machine. Right now, she was looking at her screen with a strange expression on her face. "Captain," she said. Her voice was calm, but Han had known her long enough to hear the confusion underneath. "I am getting a strange reading." Han walked over to her station. "What kind of reading?" "I do not know how to explain it," pointed at her screen. "The sensors are detecting a mass, a very large mass." "A planet." "No, it is moving, very slowly, but it is moving." She typed quickly on her keyboard. "And the shape is wrong for a planet, it is artificial." Han felt his heart beat faster. In all his years of space travel, he had never found anything like this. Humanity had met other species in the galaxy. They had traded with some and fought with others, but they had never found anything truly mysterious. Park came over from his station. He was the ship's scientist, a thin man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent his whole life studying alien cultures and ancient history. "Let me see," he said. Moved aside so he could look at the screen. Park stared at the numbers for a long moment. Then he looked at Han with wide eyes. "Captain, if these readings are correct, this object is the size of Earth." Han thought he had heard wrong. "What did you say?" "The mass reading suggests an object approximately the size of our home planet, but it has an artificial structure." Park's hands were shaking slightly. "This is impossible. No civilization in the known galaxy could build something this large." The bridge went silent. Everyone was listening now. Han looked around at his crew. They were all good people. They had followed him into unknown space without complaint. Now they were looking at him, waiting for his decision. "How far away is it?" Han asked. 3 days at maximum speed," answered. Han did not hesitate. "Set a course. We need to see this for ourselves." The next 3 days were the longest of Han's life. The crew talked about nothing else. What could it be? Who had built it? Why was it here, in the empty space between galaxies where no one ever traveled? Park spent all his time in his laboratory, searching through old records and ancient stories. The galaxy was full of legends about things that might or might not be real. He was looking for anything that matched what they had found. On the second day, he came to Han's quarters with a worried look on his face. "I found something," Park said, "in the oldest records of the..." They were one of the first species to travel among the stars. They had been exploring the galaxy for 1,000,000 years before humans learned to make fire. If anyone knew about ancient mysteries, it was them. "What do their records say?" Han asked. Park sat down heavily. "They speak of the Titans, ships so large they could hold entire civilizations inside them, ships that could travel between galaxies in the blink of an eye." He paused. "But they say the Titans are myths, stories told to children. They do not believe they are real." "Maybe they were wrong," Han said. "Maybe, but there is more." Park looked uncomfortable. "The legends say that the Titans were dangerous, that their creators built them for war, and that the creators themselves were destroyed by their own weapons." Han thought about this for a long time. "We still need to investigate. If this is real, humanity needs to know about it." On the third day, they arrived. The bridge crew gathered at the observation window. At first, they could see nothing but stars, then adjusted the external cameras and the image appeared on the main screen. No one spoke, no one could speak. It was a ship. There was no doubt about that. Han could see the smooth curves of its hull, the patterns of what might be windows or engines or weapons. It was clearly built by intelligent beings. But it was also the size of a planet. It filled the screen completely. The horizon was like a tiny insect next to it, less than an insect, a speck of dust. "This cannot be real," someone whispered. But it was real. The sensors confirmed it. The object was 12,000 kilometers across, almost exactly the size of Earth, and it was definitely artificial. "Are there any life signs?" Han asked. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "Checked her readings. No, the ship appears to be dormant. No power signatures, no heat, no movement." She paused. "It has been here for a very long time, Captain. My instruments suggest at least 10 million years." 10 million years. Humanity had only been a species for a few 100,000 years. When this ship was built, humans did not exist yet. "We need to report this," Park said. "The galaxy needs to know." Han nodded. "Send a message to Earth, tell them what we have found, and send copies to the Galactic Council." The message went out at faster-than-light speed. It would reach Earth in a few hours. It would reach the Galactic Council even sooner. But Han could not just wait. He needed to know more. "Can you find a way inside?" Studied her readings. "There is an opening on the near side. It might be a docking bay. It is big enough for the horizon to enter." "Then that is where we will go." Park put a hand on his arm. "Captain, are you sure this is wise? We do not know what is in there." "That is exactly why we need to look." Han turned to his crew. "This is the greatest discovery in human history. We cannot turn away from it." The horizon moved slowly toward the giant ship. As they got closer, more details became visible. The hull was covered in strange symbols, a language no one recognized. There were structures that might have been cities, mountains, or machines beyond understanding. The docking bay was easy to find. It was a dark hole in the side of the ship, big enough to swallow a small moon. The horizon flew inside. Lights turned on. It happened suddenly, without warning. One moment they were in complete darkness. The next moment the entire bay was filled with soft blue light. Systems began to hum. Screens flickered to life. "What is happening?" Han demanded. Was typing frantically. "The ship is waking up. Our presence triggered something. It is scanning us." On the main screen, symbols appeared. They shifted and changed, cycling through thousands of different languages. Then suddenly, they settled into Korean. "Welcome," the screen said. "We have WAITED for you." Han stared at the words. His blood ran cold. How does it know our language? Before anyone could answer, every screen on the horizon displayed the same message. And from somewhere deep inside the ancient ship, a voice spoke. It was not loud, but it filled every corner of the vessel. "Children of Earth," it said, "you have finally come home." Far away, in a different part of the galaxy, the High Council received the horizon's message. They read it 3 times, certain it must be a mistake. It was not a mistake. The eldest counselor, a being who had lived for 10,000 years, spoke with a voice full of fear. "The Titans are real, and the humans have found them." The council chamber erupted in chaos. They had always believed they were the oldest and species in the galaxy. They had watched humans grow from primitive creatures to space travelers in what seemed like the blink of an eye. Now the humans had found something that terrified even the. "We must stop them," one counselor said. "The Titans are too dangerous. No species should control that power." "We cannot stop them," the eldest replied. "The ship has already awakened. It recognized the humans." He closed his ancient eyes. The prophecies were true. The Titans were waiting for someone, and that someone has arrived. On the horizon, Captain Han stood very still. The voice from the ancient ship had fallen silent, but its words echoed in his mind. "Children of Earth, you have finally come home." What did it mean? How could a ship that was 10 million years old know about humans? How could it know their language? Han did not have answers, but he knew one thing for certain. Everything was about to change. The silence on the horizon's bridge lasted for a long time. Everyone stared at the screens, at the words that had appeared in Korean. Captain Han felt his heart pounding in his chest. He had seen many strange things in his years of space travel, but nothing like this. "Children of Earth," the voice had said, "you have finally come home." Was the first to speak. "Captain, I am getting more readings. The ship systems are activating throughout the entire structure. Power is flowing to sections that have been dark for millions of years." "Is it dangerous?" Han asked. "I do not think so. The energy patterns are stable. It is more like—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Like the ship is waking up from a very long sleep." Park stood at the observation window, looking at the massive walls of the docking bay around them. The blue lights had grown brighter, and now they could see details they had missed before. The walls were covered in carvings, pictures that told stories they could not yet understand. "We need to explore," Park said. His voice was full of wonder and fear in equal parts. "We need to know what this place is." Han nodded slowly. "Agreed, but we will be careful. You will come with me. Park, I want you to stay here and monitor the ship systems. If anything goes wrong, you are in command." Park looked like he wanted to argue, but he understood. Someone needed to stay behind. "Be careful, Captain." Han and put on their environmental suits. The ancient ship seemed to have atmosphere, but they could not be sure it was safe for humans. They also carried weapons, though Han doubted any weapon they had could hurt a ship this size. The airlock opened and they stepped onto the floor of the docking bay. It was made of some material Han did not recognize. It was smooth and warm under his boots, almost like living skin. The thought made him uncomfortable. "The air is breathable," reported, checking her sensors. "In fact, it is perfect for humans, better than the air on the horizon." "How is that possible? This ship has been empty for 10 million years." "I do not know, but the ship seems to be adapting to our presence." They walked toward a large doorway at the far end of the bay. As they approached, it opened automatically. Beyond was a corridor that stretched into the distance, lit by the same soft blue light. They walked for what felt like hours. The corridor was so long that they could not see the end. The walls were covered in more carvings, more symbols, more pictures. Some showed stars and planets. Some showed beings that might have been the ship's creators, and some showed something else. They showed humans. Stopped in front of one particular carving. It depicted a blue planet with one moon. Around it were symbols that looked almost like DNA strands. "Captain," she said quietly, "this is Earth." Han stared at the carving. It was unmistakable. The continents were shaped differently, as they would have been millions of years ago, but it was definitely Earth. Why would an alien ship have pictures of our planet? Before could answer, the voice spoke again. It came from everywhere and nowhere, calm and patient. "You have questions. That is understandable. Please continue forward. All will be explained." They exchanged looks but kept walking. What choice did they have? The corridor finally ended at a vast chamber. It was circular, hundreds of meters across. In the center was a raised platform with a single chair. Above the chair, a holographic display showed the entire galaxy, billions of stars turning slowly in the air. "Welcome to the heart," the voice said. "This is where the Titan is controlled." Han stepped forward. "What are you? Who built this ship?" The holographic display changed. Now it showed beings that were tall and slender, with 4 arms and gentle faces. They looked almost human, but not quite. "We were called the architects. We built the Titans 12 million years ago. We built many things. We were the first intelligent species in this galaxy, and we believed it was our duty to spread life wherever we could." Park's voice came through the communicator. "Captain, are you seeing this? The ship is transmitting data to our computers, historical records, scientific information, star maps. There is more knowledge here than humanity has gathered in our entire existence. Why did you build these ships? Asked. To explore, to protect, to help life grow and flourish. The hologram shifted again, showing the Titans traveling between galaxies, seeding planets with the building blocks of life. But we made a mistake. We grew afraid. The images changed to show darker scenes. Wars, destruction, the architects fighting among themselves. Some of us believed that we should rule the life we had created. Others believed that life should be free to find its own path. The war lasted for 1,000 years. In the end, we destroyed ourselves. Han felt a deep sadness wash over him. The architects had been gods, capable of creating life across the universe, and they had destroyed themselves through fear and greed. It was a warning to every species that came after them. But before we fell, we made one final gift, the voice continued. We seeded one world with our own genetic code, a world that would one day produce beings capable of inheriting what we had built. We called them our children. The hologram showed Earth again. It showed primitive creatures slowly evolving over millions of years. It showed early humans learning to use tools, building civilizations, reaching for the stars. You are our children, the voice said. The Titans were always meant for you. Sat down heavily. Her legs did not seem to want to hold her anymore. We are descended from the architects. That is why the ship responds to us. Yes, your DNA carries markers that we placed there at the beginning. The Titans are programmed to recognize those markers. They will only obey the children of the architects. Han tried to process what he was hearing. Humanity was not just a random accident of evolution. They had been designed, created, planted on Earth like seeds in a garden, waiting to grow. Why did you wait so long to contact us? The Titans were programmed to stay hidden until you were ready, until you had developed the technology to find them, until you had grown wise enough to use them responsibly. The voice paused. Whether you are truly ready, only time will tell. Back on the horizon, Park was receiving the data transmission from the ancient ship. His screen was filled with information that would take decades to fully understand. But one thing was clear. The other species of the galaxy were watching. His communication system was flooded with messages. They demanded to know what the humans had found. The warlike empire threatened violence if the humans tried to claim the Titan for themselves. Smaller species begged for information, for help, for reassurance. And then came a message that made Park's blood run cold. It was from the High Council. It said only this: the Titans must be destroyed, we are coming. Park immediately opened a channel to Han. Captain, we have a problem. They are sending a fleet. They want to destroy the Titan. Han heard the words, but his mind was still reeling from everything the ship had told him. Can they? Can anything destroy something this size? I do not know, but they are going to try. Their fleet will be here in 2 days. The voice of the Titan spoke again, calm as always. They are afraid. They have always known that the architects were real. They have always known that one day the heirs would come, and they have always feared that day. Why asked, why would they fear us? Because they have built their civilization on a lie. They claim to be the oldest species, the most powerful, but they know the truth. They found records of the architects long ago. They found hints of the Titans, and they were terrified. The hologram showed the discovering ancient ruins. It showed them destroying what they found, hiding the evidence, rewriting history. They did not want to share the galaxy with anyone more powerful than themselves. They have spent millions of years suppressing knowledge of the architects, and now their greatest fear has come true. Han understood now. They were not just afraid of the Titan, they were afraid of humanity. They were afraid of what humanity might become. What happens if they attack us? The Titan can defend itself. It is armed with weapons beyond anything the galaxy has seen in millions of years, but using those weapons would cause tremendous destruction. There has to be another way, said. We did not come here to start a war. The voice was silent for a moment. There is another way, but it requires great courage and great trust. Tell us. You must take the command chair. You must bond with the Titan. Once you do, you will have full control over its systems. You can choose to defend yourselves with violence, or you can choose another path. Han looked at the chair in the center of the chamber. It seemed simple enough, just a place to sit, but he knew it was much more than that. It was a responsibility beyond anything he had ever imagined. If I sit there, can I ever leave? Yes, the bond is not permanent, but once made, it will change you. You will carry the knowledge of the architects in your mind. You will see the galaxy as they saw it. You will understand things that no human has ever understood. Han thought about his crew. He thought about Earth. He thought about all the humans who would never know that their existence was not an accident, that they were part of something much larger than themselves. I will do it, he said. Grabbed his arm. Captain, wait, we do not know what this will do to you. I know, but someone has to, and I am the captain. The responsibility is mine. He walked to the chair and sat down. Light surrounded him. He felt the Titan systems connecting to his mind, showing him everything, teaching him in an instant what would take a lifetime to learn normally. He saw the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. He saw the architects at the height of their power and at the moment of their fall. And he saw something else, a message left specifically for whoever would sit in this chair first. It was a single sentence, written in every language the architects had ever known. Use power for protection, never for conquest. This is our only wish for you. When Han opened his eyes, he was different. He could feel the Titan around him like an extension of his own body. He could sense the fleet approaching. He could see every star in the galaxy. But most importantly, he knew what he had to do. He said, send a message to tell them we do not want to fight, tell them we want to talk. Will they listen? I do not know, but we have to try. The architects destroyed themselves through war. We will not make the same mistake. In the cold darkness of space, the ancient Titan began to move for the first time in 10 million years. And across the galaxy, every species watched and wondered what the humans would do with their new power. The answer would change everything. The message went out across the galaxy at faster than light speed, sent it from the Horizon's communication system, but its true source was unmistakable. The ancient Titan was speaking through the small human vessel. To all species of the galaxy, the message said, this is Captain Han of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have discovered something that belongs to all of us. We do not claim ownership. We do not seek power. We only want to understand and to share what we have learned. We ask for peace and cooperation. The reactions came quickly. Some species were curious. They sent messages asking questions, wanting to know more about the Titan and the architects. These were the younger species, the ones who had not yet learned to be afraid of things they did not understand. Some species were afraid. They did not respond at all. They simply watched from a distance, waiting to see what would happen next. And some species were angry. The High Council did not even acknowledge the message. Their fleet continued on its course toward the Titan. They would arrive in less than 2 days. But they were not alone. Park monitored the communication channels from the Horizon's bridge. His face grew more worried with each passing hour. Captain, we have a problem, a big problem. Han heard him through the connection he now shared with the Titan. Since bonding with the ancient ship, he could sense things happening far away. He could feel the fleet like a storm approaching, but he could also feel other things. Tell me, he said. It is not just the coming. The Empire has launched a war fleet. The Morin Collective is mobilizing. Even the peaceful have sent observation ships. Park shook his head. Everyone wants the Titan, or they want to make sure no one else gets it. Was standing next to Han in the heart chamber. Since the captain had bonded with the Titan, she had stayed close to him. She was worried about him. He seemed different now, calmer, more distant, as if part of him was somewhere else. "How many ships are coming?" she asked. "Thousands," Park answered. "Maybe tens of thousands. Every major power in the galaxy is sending everything they have." Han closed his eyes. Through the Titan's sensors he could see them all, fleets from a dozen species converging on this empty point in space. They would arrive at different times from different directions. The would-be first, the would-be second, and then chaos would follow. "They are all afraid," Han said quietly. "The Titan represents power beyond anything they have ever imagined. They cannot allow any species to control it, not even us." "What do we do?" asked. Before Han could answer, the Titan spoke. Its voice filled the chamber, speaking to all of them at once. "There is more that you should know, more that the architects left behind." The holographic display activated. It showed not just the galaxy, but the entire local group of galaxies. Dozens of spinning islands of stars, each containing billions of worlds. "The Titan you have found is not alone. The architects built 12 in total. 11 have been destroyed or lost over the millions of years since we fell. This is the last one." Han felt something stir in the back of his mind. The Titan was sharing memories with him, ancient memories of the other ships. Some had been destroyed in the war that ended the architects. Others had wandered into the void between galaxies and were never seen again. One had crashed into a star. Another had been torn apart by a black hole. Only this one remained. "But there is something more important," the Titan continued. "The records you have been receiving contain the full history of the architects, including the truth about how life spread through this galaxy." The hologram changed again. Now it showed the galaxy as it had been 12 million years ago, empty, lifeless, nothing but stars and dust. When the architects first gained the ability to travel between stars, they found nothing, no other intelligent species, no life at all anywhere they looked. The universe was silent. The images showed the architects searching world after world, finding only barren rock and poisonous gas. This troubled them deeply. They had always believed that life was common in the universe, that intelligence was natural and inevitable, but they found no evidence of this, so they decided to make it true. Now the hologram showed the architects at work, building machines that could travel between stars on their own, machines that carried the building blocks of life, machines that would land on suitable worlds and begin the slow process of creating ecosystems. Over millions of years, they seeded thousands of worlds. They guided evolution in subtle ways, encouraging the development of intelligence wherever they could. Every species in this galaxy today exists because the architects made it so. Stared at the hologram in shock. Every species, not just humans. All of them, the Moran, every intelligent being in the galaxy shares a common origin. You are all children of the architects. Park's voice came through the communicator, filled with wonder. That explains so much. Why so many species can breathe similar atmospheres. Why so many have similar body structures. Why translation between languages is possible. We all came from the same source. Han understood now why they were so afraid. They had known this truth for millions of years. They had hidden it because they wanted to believe they were special. They wanted to believe they were the firstborn, the eldest, But they were not. They were just another branch on a very old tree, no more special than the humans they looked down upon. "This information must be shared," Han said. "Everyone in the galaxy deserves to know where they came from." "Agreed," the Titan said. "I have already begun transmitting the records to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Within hours, everyone will know the truth." On 1,000 worlds, the messages arrived. Scientists received detailed genetic analyses proving that all species shared common ancestors. Historians received records that rewrote everything they thought they knew. Religious leaders received evidence that challenged the foundations of their faiths. The reaction was explosive. On the crowds gathered in the streets. Some were angry, some were confused, some simply wept. The great lie their civilization had been built on was crumbling. On the empire's capital, the emperor demanded that his scientists prove the records were fake. They could not. The evidence was too complete, too detailed, too undeniable. On Earth, humanity received the news with a mixture of wonder and fear. They had always felt like newcomers to the galaxy, small and weak compared to species that had been traveling among the stars for millions of years. Now, they learned that they were heirs to the greatest civilization that had ever existed. But the fleets did not turn back. If anything, they accelerated. The High Council issued a new statement. The records are forgeries. The humans have created false documents to justify their theft of ancient technology. We will not rest until the Titan is destroyed and order is restored. The Emperor declared that the Titan must be claimed for the glory of his empire. The genetic connection between species only proved that the strongest should rule over the weakest. The Galactic Council, such as it was, fell into chaos. Old alliances crumbled. New conflicts erupted. Species that had been at peace for thousands of years suddenly found themselves on opposite sides. Han watched it all through the Titan's sensors. He could see the approaching fleets. He could hear the angry messages flying back and forth. He could feel the fear and rage that was spreading through the galaxy like a disease. "They do not want to know the truth," he said sadly. "They would rather fight than accept that they are not special." Put a hand on his shoulder. "Some of them want the truth. I can see messages from ordinary people, from scientists, from young leaders who are tired of the old ways. The truth is getting through to them." But the fleets are still coming. Yes, the fleets are still coming. Park had been working on something in the Horizon's computer. Now he spoke up, his voice excited. "Captain, I have found something in the architect's records, something that might help." "What is it?" The architects did not just seed life. They also created a system for resolving conflicts, a place where disputes could be settled peacefully. They called it the Court of Stars. The Titan responded immediately. The Court of Stars still exists. It is in a neutral region of space, far from any inhabited world. No weapons are permitted there. No violence is possible. It was designed to be a place where all species could meet as equals. Han felt a spark of hope. Can we call a gathering there? Can we force the fleets to stop? You cannot force anyone to do anything, but you can invite them. As the captain of the last Titan, you have the authority to call a gathering of all species. Whether they choose to attend is up to them. "Do it," Han said. "Send the invitation to every ship, every world, every species in the galaxy. Tell them that the Court of Stars is open. Tell them that if they want answers, if they want peace, they should come." The invitation went out. It was received by admirals on warships, by politicians in government chambers, by ordinary people watching the news on 1,000 different worlds. "Come to the Court of Stars," the message said. "Come and learn the truth. Come and decide the future together." The fleet was now only hours away. Their admiral, a stern old soldier named, received the message on his bridge. He read it 3 times. His second-in-command looked at him nervously. "What do we do, Admiral?" Had served for 300 years. He had fought in wars. He had watched empires rise and fall. He had always believed that they were the greatest species in the galaxy. Now he was not so sure. The records from the Titan had shown him things he could not explain away. Genetic evidence, historical data. The truth was staring him in the face, whether he wanted to see it or not. "We continue toward the Titan," he said finally. "But we will not attack. Not yet. First, we will go to this court of stars. First, we will hear what the humans have to say. His second-in-command looked relieved, and then we will decide, as soldiers and as children of the architects. Across the galaxy, other commanders made similar decisions. The Emperor, despite his anger, wanted to see the court of stars for himself. The peaceful were eager to participate in any diplomatic process. The fleets did not turn back, but their purpose changed. They were no longer coming to destroy. They were coming to judge. And at the center of it all, Captain Han sat in the heart of the Titan, preparing for the most important meeting in galactic history. The fate of every species would be decided in the days to come. He only hoped he was wise enough to guide them toward peace. The Court of Stars was beautiful beyond anything Han had imagined. It was a station built in the heart of a nebula, surrounded by clouds of glowing gas in every color. The architects had chosen this place carefully. No species could claim it as their territory. No strategic advantage existed here. It was a place of pure neutrality. The Titan arrived first, carrying the horizon inside its massive docking bay. Han could feel the ancient station responding to his presence. Lights activated. Systems came online. The court had been sleeping for 12 million years, waiting for someone to need it again. The other fleets arrived over the next several hours. They came with 300 warships, their hulls gleaming silver in the nebula's light. The Empire brought 500 vessels, black and angular, covered in weapons. The Morin Collective sent their famous living ships, massive creatures that had been bred for space travel over millions of years. Dozens of other species sent what ships they could. Some had only a handful of small vessels. Others brought hundreds. By the time everyone arrived, nearly 2,000 ships filled the space around the Court of Stars. And all of them were pointed at the Titan. Park had transferred from the horizon to the court itself, setting up communication equipment and preparing the great hall where the meeting would take place. Stayed with Han, unwilling to leave his side. "They are afraid," she said, looking at the holographic display of the gathered fleets. "They came here to talk, but they are still ready to fight." "I know." Han could feel their fear through the Titan's sensors. It was like a pressure against his mind, a constant reminder of how much was at stake. But at least they came. That is something. The first delegates arrived at the court's docking bays. The admiral led his people with rigid military precision. His face showed nothing, but Han could sense the turmoil beneath his calm surface. The Emperor came in person, surrounded by his elite guards. He was larger than Han expected, nearly 3 meters tall, his scaled body covered in ceremonial armor. His eyes never stopped moving, studying everything, looking for threats. Representatives from 100 other species followed. Some Han recognized from humanity's previous encounters. Others he had never seen before. All of them looked at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The great hall of the Court of Stars was circular, with seats arranged in rising tiers around a central platform. Above them, the ceiling was transparent, showing the swirling colors of the nebula. It was designed to remind everyone that they were small compared to the universe, that their conflicts were small compared to the vastness of space. Han stood on the central platform with Park beside him. He felt very alone, very human. The entire weight of his species rested on his shoulders. "Thank you all for coming," he began. His voice was carried by the court systems to every translator in the room. "I know many of you are angry. I know many of you are afraid. I would be too in your position." The Emperor snorted. "You have the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. What do you have to fear?" "Everything," Han said honestly. "The Titan gives me power, yes, but power without wisdom is just destruction. The architects learned that lesson. They destroyed themselves because they could not agree on how to use what they had created." Admiral stood. His voice was cold and controlled. "You speak of the architects as if you understand them, but you have known about them for only days. We have studied their ruins for millions of years. We know things about them that you cannot imagine." "Then share that knowledge," Han replied. "That is why we are here, not to fight, not to make demands, but to share what we know and decide together what should be done." "What should be done is obvious," the Emperor growled. "The Titan should be claimed by the strongest. That is the law of nature. The weak serve the strong." Voices erupted throughout the hall. Some agreed with the Emperor, others shouted in protest. The careful order of the gathering began to break down. Then something happened that no one expected. A small figure stood up in the back of the hall. She was from a species Han did not recognize. Her skin was pale blue, and she had 4 eyes that blinked in pairs. Her people were called and they were one of the smallest and weakest species in the galaxy. "May I speak?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but something about it made everyone fall silent. Han nodded, "Please." They walked down to the central platform. She was so small that she barely reached Han's waist, but she stood straight, and her 4 eyes were steady. "My name is Lyra," she said. "My people have been slaves for most of our history, first to then to the. We have never had power, we have never had weapons, we have only had each other." She turned to face the gathered delegates. "I have seen what power does to people. They use their power to hide the truth. They use their power to conquer and destroy. But the humans," she looked at Han, "the humans found the greatest power in the galaxy, and the first thing they did was call us here to share it." The Emperor laughed. "Words are easy. Let us see what they do when we try to take the Titan from them." As if responding to his words, alarms began sounding throughout the court. The holographic displays showed something terrifying. A new fleet had arrived, but not a fleet of ships, a fleet of weapons. "What is this?" Admiral demanded. Park was studying the sensor data. His face went pale. "They are automated weapons, war machines from the Empire. They must have been following the main fleet in stealth mode." The Emperor smiled. It was not a nice smile. "You did not think I would come here without insurance, did you? Those weapons are programmed to destroy the Titan, and they cannot be recalled. If I die, they attack. If I give the order, they attack. The only way to stop them is to give me the Titan." Chaos erupted in the hall. Delegates from a dozen species began shouting at the Emperor. The Admiral drew his weapon, pointing it at the leader. Guards from both sides prepared for combat. Han stood very still. He could feel the automated weapons through the Titan sensors. There were thousands of them. Each one was powerful enough to destroy a city. Together, they might actually damage the Titan. But that was not what worried him. What worried him was that the Court of Stars would become a battlefield. That all these species, gathered here in hopes of peace, would slaughter each other because one leader could not let go of his greed. "Stop," he said. His voice was not loud, but it carried power. The Titan systems amplified it, made it echo through the hall, made it impossible to ignore. Everyone fell silent. Han stepped forward. He looked at the Emperor, at the hatred and greed in those reptilian eyes. "You want the Titan. You think you can control it. I will take it, one way or another." Han shook his head. "You cannot. The Titan responds only to human DNA, only to the children of the architects who were seated on Earth. Even if you killed everyone on this station, even if you destroyed every human in the galaxy, you could never command it." The Emperor's face twisted with rage. "Then it should be destroyed. If we cannot have it, no one should. And you would risk the lives of everyone here to achieve that, your own people included." The Emperor hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Stepped forward. "We could destroy your weapons, Emperor. The Titan has power you cannot imagine, but we will not. Do you know why?" The Emperor said nothing. "Because we are not like you," continued. "We do not believe that power means domination. We believe that power means responsibility. The responsibility to protect, the responsibility to help, the responsibility to be better than those who came before us. Admiral slowly lowered his weapon. The architects believed the same thing once, before they fell. Yes, Han said, and we have learned from their mistakes. They fell because they could not trust each other, because they let fear and ambition divide them. We are here to do the opposite. We are here to trust, to share, to build something new. He reached out through his connection to the Titan. The ancient ship responded to his will. On the holographic displays, everyone watched as the Titan's weapons began to power up. But they did not point at the war machines. They did not point at any of the gathered fleets. Instead, they pointed outward, into the darkness of space, away from everyone and everything. I am going to disable the Titan's weapons, Han said, permanently. The power of the architects will no longer be used for destruction. Gasps echoed through the hall. Are you insane? The Emperor demanded. Without those weapons, we could destroy you easily. Yes, you could. Han looked around at all the gathered species. But I do not believe you will. I believe that most of you came here because you want peace, because you are tired of fear and war and hatred, because you want to be better. He closed his eyes. Through his bond with the Titan, he found the weapon systems, ancient machines of incredible destructive power, capable of shattering planets, of burning fleets, of ending wars with a single shot. He shut them down, all of them permanently. The displays showed the Titan's weapons going dark, one by one. The greatest military force in the galaxy was being dismantled by its own commander. There, Han said, now the Titan is not a weapon, it is a gift, a storehouse of knowledge and technology that can help all of us. If you still want to destroy it, you can, but you will be destroying hope. You will be destroying the future. The hall was completely silent. Then slowly the Emperor began to laugh, but it was not the cruel laugh from before. It was something else, something almost like relief. You are either the bravest being I have ever met, he said, or the most foolish. Perhaps both, Han admitted. The Emperor looked at his guards. He looked at the displays showing his war machines, still hovering in space, still capable of destruction. Then he gave an order in his own language. On the sensors, the war machines began to power down, to retreat. I did not come here to be shown up by a human, the Emperor said, but I did not come here to start a war either. Let us talk. Let us see what this Titan of yours can really do. Admiral nodded slowly. They agree. We have hidden the truth for too long. Perhaps it is time to try something different. One by one, the other delegations added their voices. Agreement, willingness to talk, hope. Lyra, the small delegate, looked up at Han with all four of her eyes shining with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for showing us what courage looks like. Han smiled, though he was trembling inside. He had gambled everything on the belief that people were better than their worst impulses. That fear could be overcome with trust. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. But the real work was just beginning. The weapons were gone, but the problems remained. Millions of years of conflict and suspicion could not be erased in a single day. Still, it was a start, the first step on a long journey toward something new. In the nebula around them, the stars continued to shine. The colors of the gas clouds swirled and danced. And in the great hall of the Court of Stars, enemies became partners, and a new chapter in galactic history began to be written. The negotiations at the Court of Stars lasted for 30 days. Representatives from more than 100 species argued, debated, and slowly learned to understand each other. It was not easy. Millions of years of conflict could not be forgotten overnight, but something had changed, something fundamental. Han spent most of his time in the Titan, using its vast knowledge base to answer questions and provide solutions. The ancient ship contained technology that could solve problems the galaxy had struggled with for ages. clean energy that could power entire civilizations without destroying their worlds, medical knowledge that could cure diseases thought to be incurable, methods of growing food that could end hunger forever. He shared all of it, every piece of knowledge, every secret the architects had left behind. Nothing was held back. Worked alongside him, translating complex scientific concepts into language that other species could understand. She had always been brilliant with machines. Now she discovered she was equally good with people. Park became the unofficial historian of the gathering. He recorded everything: the speeches, the arguments, the moments of breakthrough when former enemies found common ground. He knew that future generations would want to understand how this moment had happened. On the 20th day, something remarkable occurred. The Admiral asked to speak with Han privately. They met in a small chamber overlooking the nebula, just the two of them. "I have been alive for 300 years, said. I have served my people faithfully. I have believed everything they taught me, and now I learn it was all a lie." Han waited. He could sense the old soldier's pain, the way his entire understanding of the universe had been shattered. "My people hid the truth about the architects because we were afraid," continued. "Afraid of losing our position, afraid of being ordinary. We convinced ourselves that we were the chosen ones, the eldest children of the galaxy. We looked down on every other species, especially the young ones, especially humans. And now," looked at him with ancient eyes, "now I understand that the fear was never about other species. It was about ourselves. We were afraid that if we were not special, we would be worthless." He took a deep breath. "But you have shown me something different. You found the greatest power in the galaxy, and you used it to bring us together. You had every reason to hate us, to punish us for how we treated your kind, but you chose to help instead." "Hatred accomplishes nothing," Han said. "The architects taught me that. They destroyed themselves because they could not stop hating and fearing each other. I do not want humanity to make the same mistake." Was silent for a long moment. Then he did something Han had never seen it do before. He bowed his head. "On behalf of my people, I apologize for what we did, for what we hid, for who we were." Han felt tears in his eyes. He put a hand on the old Admiral's shoulder. "Thank you, that means more than you know." The negotiations continued. The Emperor, despite his aggressive nature, proved to be surprisingly practical once his pride was set aside. He worked closely with the Morin Collective to establish trade agreements that would benefit both their peoples. Lyra, the small delegate, became a symbol of what was possible. Her people had been slaves. Now they were invited to join the council as equal partners. On the day her people's admission was formally approved, she wept openly. So did many others in the hall. On the 28th day, Han called everyone together for an important announcement. "I have learned something new from the Titan," he said. "Something the architects wanted us to know, but only when we were ready." The holographic display activated, showing not the galaxy but a single star system, a yellow sun, a blue planet with one moon. Earth. The architects did not just seed life on Earth, they left something else, a gift hidden deep beneath the surface of our world, a second Titan. Gasps filled the hall. "It is incomplete," Han continued. "The architects planned to finish it, but they fell before they could. However, with the knowledge from this Titan and the cooperation of every species in the galaxy, we can complete their work." He looked around at the gathered delegates, former enemies, new allies, the children of the architects, all of them. "I am not proposing that humanity control this new Titan. I am proposing that we build it together, a ship that belongs to no single species, but to all of us, a symbol of what we can accomplish when we work as one." The debate that followed was intense. Some species still harbored suspicions. Old fears died hard, but in the end the vote was overwhelming. The galaxy would build a Titan together. On the 30th day, the Court of Stars witnessed something that had not happened in 12 million years. Every species in attendance signed a treaty. The Galactic Covenant, they called it. It established peace between all signatories. It created a council where all species had equal voices. It committed everyone to sharing knowledge and resources for the common good. It was not perfect, no treaty could be, but it was a beginning. As the delegates prepared to return to Han stood alone on the observation deck. He looked out at the nebula, at the beautiful chaos of color and light that surrounded the court. Found him there. It worked, she said quietly. I still cannot believe it worked. Neither can I, Han admitted. Every day I expected someone to attack, someone to betray us, someone to choose fear over hope. But they did not. No, they did not. Stood beside him watching the stars. What happens now? Han smiled. Now the real work begins. We have a Titan to build, a galaxy to heal, 1,000 years of peace to create. He paused. But we will not do it alone. That is the most important thing. We will never be alone again. Back on Earth, the news of the Covenant spread quickly. People gathered in the streets of every city, watching the broadcasts from the Court of Stars. For the first time in human history, they understood their place in the universe. They were not just one species among many. They were the heirs of the architects, the ones who had been chosen to bring the galaxy together. It was a heavy responsibility, but humanity had always been good at carrying heavy burdens. 6 months later, construction began on the new Titan. Species that had been enemies for millions of years worked side by side. Engineers collaborated with builders. Moran biologists partnered with human scientists. They, freed from their history of slavery, contributed ideas that no one else had thought of. Han supervised the project from the original Titan. His bond with the ancient ship had grown stronger over time. Sometimes he could barely tell where his thoughts ended and the Titans began. But he had learned to accept this. The architects had sacrificed everything to give the galaxy a chance. The least he could do was sacrifice some of himself. Came to him one evening with news. The High Council has voted to release all their historical records, everything they hid about the architects. They say they want no more secrets. Han nodded. Good, the truth has been hidden long enough. There is something else. She hesitated. The Emperor has adopted Lyra as his official heir. Han stared at her. The delegate, but they have never accepted outsiders into their royal line. The Emperor says he wants to show that the old ways are finished. He says that if the children of slaves can rule the greatest empire in the galaxy, then anything is possible. Han laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in months. The universe never stopped surprising me. Years passed. The new Titan took shape. It was larger than the original, designed to serve as a mobile city where all species could live together in peace. When it was finished, it would travel the galaxy, bringing help to those who needed it, spreading the knowledge of the architects to every corner of known space. On the day of its completion, representatives from every species gathered again. This time, not at the Court of Stars, but on Earth, in the place where humanity had first looked up at the sky and wondered what was out there. Han stood before the gathered crowd. He was older now. His hair had turned gray, but his eyes were still sharp, still filled with the wonder he had felt when he first discovered the ancient Titan. 12 million years ago, the architects dreamed of a galaxy united in peace. They failed. Their fear and pride destroyed them, but their dream survived. It survived in the worlds they seeded, in the life they created, in us. He looked up at the sky, where the new Titan hung among the stars like a second moon. Today we complete their work, not as humans, not as or Moran but as one people, the children of the architects, the guardians of the galaxy. Admiral stepped forward. In his hands he carried the banner of the Galactic Covenant. He knelt before Han and offered it to him. We follow your lead, Captain, now and always. Han took the banner. He felt the weight of it, the responsibility it represented. Then he turned and handed it to Lyra. "The covenant does not belong to any single person," he said. "It belongs to all of us, especially to those who were forgotten, to those who were oppressed, to those who never had a voice." Lyra took the banner with trembling hands. Her 4 eyes shone with tears. "I do not know if I am worthy of this honor." "None of us are worthy," Hand said. "That is why we must work together. That is the lesson the architects left us. Alone we are small, together we are infinite." The crowd cheered. Species that had been enemies raised their voices in celebration. On 1,000 worlds, people watched and wept and hoped. The galaxy had been divided for too long. Now it was whole. Han looked up at the stars one last time. Somewhere out there, in the void between galaxies, other children of the architects might still exist. Other seeds planted long ago, waiting to be discovered. But that was a journey for another day. For now it was enough to know that humanity had fulfilled its destiny, not through conquest, not through war, but through the simple, powerful act of choosing hope over fear. The architects would have been proud. And in the hearts of every being in the galaxy, a new era had begun. An era of peace, an era of unity, an era of wonder. The era of the children.